Hi everyone, as we begin the show, very first thing, I want to show you a couple of sets of books that I think should be in every home if you have someone who is 2.5 up to 7 years old. These are learn to read books, and it's never too early to start reading awesome books for all of those ages. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is this My First Reading Library, and I'm going to show you a few of the books from that set. This is a set of 50 paperback books, all of which are phonics based, and they start with Pirate Pat. It's a shared reader, Pirate Pat is, and it's the funniest ever book. So a grown-up or a reader's helper would read this part, and the child would start sounding out these words from letter sounds that they're going to learn with each book. This makes the book less boring for readers who are learning to read. It has great illustrations, and it lets the story be more interesting and more funny. So if you have a 2.5 or 3.5-year-old, you might just read these books aloud to them and get them used to these fun letter sounds and some of the words that rhyme. If you have someone who's learning to read, in addition to the other things you're doing with the alphabet, you might want to share these letter sounds. Different ones are introduced in every single book. And then they can start sounding them out with the letter sounds they know from other books or from the book you're introducing. So this is the very first level in this series. Then we're going to look at book 14 in this series. So you might spend some time on each book learning those letter sounds if you have a learn to read. You might just use this as a fun reading library if you have somebody who's a little younger. You can see that when we get to book 14, there's more complex letter sounds. There are blends that use different letters. And it's so easily explained in the back. And then by book 14, they'll be reading on their own and sounding out all of these words. There are also little games to play that help reinforce the sounds and the way the words look. So these are the first 20-something books in the series. Look like these. Then we move up to the next level of reading, Usborne First Reading Level 1. This starts to be a beginning first grade reader. And you can see the words are big. They're all, again, building on those great phonics sounds we've learned before. And they continue on Usborne First Reading Level 2, which is going to have even more exciting words and stories. I looked everywhere for books like this when my son was learning to read. They're super tough to find, books that aren't boring as you're learning to read. This set is $79.99 for 50 books. That makes them about $1.80 per book. You'll use them with child after child. You'll use them in all different ways. I cannot imagine a house that does not need these books if you have children of those ages. The next set I want to show you is the phonics reader set. Some of you may have been introduced to our phonics readers differently, maybe in Ted and Friends or as individual readers. But phonics readers are a different kind of reinforcement of the letters. These are longer stories that use lots of the same word family in each book. And they're very funny stories with great cartoon bubbles. These were the first books that my son ever read, and he loved me repeating the stories over and over again for him until he almost memorized them. Learning the rhyming words early on helps children really understand reading more quickly later on. This set is $69.99 and comes with 20 great phonics books in it. So consider both of these sets before we move on with the show.